Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢 Sharma.
Hello everyone, welcome to ForumIAS. I'm 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞. In this video, we're going to have an analysis of The Hindu of today, that is 13th of September 2023. So these are the important articles that we're going to discuss in today's video. So these are the 5 important articles. So drop the bad idea of simultaneous elections. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita needs a relook. Nipa breaks out again in Kerala, claims 2 lives. Centre to start Ayushman health scheme today, and Supreme Court refers plea against sedition law to a constitution bench. So these are the articles that we're going to discuss today. So these 2 editorials that we're going to discuss today are from General Studies paper 2. So these are important from mains point of view from General Studies paper 2. So coming to our first editorial, it is drop the bad idea of simultaneous elections. So in this editorial, so we are going to discuss some arguments against this simultaneous elections. What are the solutions for this? So this would be very perfect to write a mains answer. So if you get a question on simultaneous elections, you can definitely pick a lot of points from this particular editorial. So here we're going to look at this particular editorial. So increasing discussion about one nation, one election. So in the recent times, if you have seen, there is a lot of discussion about this simultaneous elections or one nation, one election concept. And also a committee was formed by former President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind. So this committee was also formed regarding this one nation, one election, like how it would be implemented, what were the various changes that have to be made, right? What are the constitutional changes that have to be made, how should it be implemented, how should it be made legal. So for all these things, a committee was formed by our headed by our former President of India. And now let's have a look at the various arguments in favor of this and also criticisms against this and also the solutions for this. So first of all, coming to the arguments in favor of simultaneous elections. That means if you are writing an answer, if you are giving these arguments in favor of simultaneous elections, you can definitely mention these points. So the first point would be, it will decrease the cost of conducting elections and of electioneering. Because as we know, what is this simultaneous elections? It is going for a possibility of having national and state elections at the same time. So national and also the state elections. So if we are having the national and state elections at the same time, that is what is known as our simultaneous elections or one nation, one election concept. So if we are going for this, for example, if we are going for simultaneous elections, what would happen? It will decrease the cost of conducting elections, because at the nation level, we are conducting the elections. Again, after that, at the state level, we are conducting elections. So there is a lot of expenditure that is going on for the conducting of these elections. So here, if you see, if you conduct simultaneous elections, the cost of conducting these elections and also the cost of electioneering and campaigning, all these would come down. So this is the first point in favor of simultaneous elections. So our second point would be, it will free up political parties from being in permanent campaign mode and it will allow them to focus on governance for a 5-year period. So it will free up the political parties from being in a permanent campaign mode. So if you are having national elections this year and if we are having state elections the next year, so in this way what would happen? The political parties would be completely engaged in this election campaigning and have to plan for this campaigning, doing the campaign, elections, results, etc. So they are completely on that and they are not concentrating on the welfare part and also implementation of policies, right? So if we go for simultaneous elections, then only once in 5 years they will be on this election mode. In the other time, what they'll do is they can focus on the governance for a full 5-year period. So these are the arguments in favor of simultaneous elections that you can mention. So coming to the criticisms of simultaneous elections. So you have to know both the pros and cons of a particular topic. So here you can see the criticisms of these elections, right? So the logical nightmare of conducting simultaneous elections. So actually, if we are going to conduct this, how would it be the logistical nightmare? So logistical cost, how would it be? Because we haven't done this in the recent times. Earlier we had this, we'll come to that point. So the first criticism is the logistical nightmare of conducting this simultaneous elections, because our country with a lot of population, that is almost a little over 1.4 billion people. So in such a big country, in a context where even state elections need to take place in multiple phases, the logistical cost would be very much. So it would be a difficult logistical wise and logically, right? And also, if we have frequent state elections, it will hamper governance and also the business of the parliament, right? And second one is incompatibility of a rigid election timetable with some of the fundamentals of parliamentary democracy. So this is our second point, that is incompatibility of a rigid election timetable that we have, right? If you know, at the time of our independence, right, during that time, central and state elections, they were conducted simultaneously. So if you get a prelim statement based question that we have not conducted simultaneous elections in India anytime, that would be a wrong statement, because at the time of our independence, at that time we have conducted this. So we have already done this. This is not new to us, right? So at the time of independence, the central and state elections, they were conducted simultaneously. But later it got broke down by the end of almost like 1960s and all. At the end of 1960s, they have broken down this particular system of conducting this central and state elections simultaneously. So what was the reason at that time? Because of this Article 356, right? So what is this Article 356? As we know, President's rule. So this authorized the union to suspend or even dismiss the state governments. But this was done with some narrow range of circumstances. So because of all those situations, they have thought that, okay, we'll not continue this process of conducting national and state level elections at the same time, that is simultaneously. So from that time, we have discontinued this conducting simultaneous elections, right? So this is one more point that you have to remember. And even if legally and practically one is able to synchronize central and state elections for one cycle, this will break down the moment a government falls, right? So for example, next year in 2024, we have conducted simultaneous elections, that is at the national level and also at the state level. If we have conducted one nation, one election concept, following that, if we conducted one election and we have the government has formed, everything is fine. But in some state, for example, a state A, in that state, the government lost the confidence and the government has fallen down. What will happen in that particular case? It will have to go for elections. For example, in the year 2026, there was a government has fallen in a particular state. What would happen to this concept of one nation, one election then? So this would be a one situation wherein we have to think for a solution. So we'll also have some solutions to this, right? So because if the government falls, there will be definitely a break in this cycle. So here we have some solutions for this. So what are the solutions that we have? First one is having a precedence rule. So first solution would be precedence rule. So how would this be a solution for this? Because if we have precedence rule, that is central rule, so that will be imposed in that state until that 5-year period is over. So as per our example, we have elections in 2044, government was formed, and in 2026, the government has fallen in state A. So what they'll do, next elections would be in 2029, right? So after 5 years only, the elections would be conducted. So what happens in these 3 years? In these 3 years, they will be imposing a precedence rule. So that state would be under precedence rule for 3 years, and then it will have elections again in 2029, that is again simultaneous elections along with the other states, right? So this is one solution. And then we have another solution. So that is elections will be held in that state, but the term of the new assembly will be only until the next cycle. So that could be 1 year, 3 years, 4 years, etc. So as per our example, in 2026, the government has fallen, right? So in 2026, in state A, we have conducted the elections. So the term of the new government, it will be only until 2029. So it will be there only for 3 years. Instead of 5 years, it will be there only for 3 years, right? So this is one more solution that was given. For example, if the government falls in 2028, then only for 1 year they have to conduct elections again, and then it will be present, that government would be present only for 1 year. So this is not a more feasible solution, because the government of that which was elected, it will be there only for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, etc. So it will not have a full term of 5 years because of this concept of one nation, one election, right? And also this will again have an increase in the cost of conducting elections. So the government has fallen in one state, well, they'll be conducting elections again in that particular state. And again the next year the government has fallen in state B, again there will be conducting the elections. So in that way, the main aim was to reduce the cost or expenditure of conducting the elections, right? But this cannot be done because there is the government has fallen, and again we have to conduct these elections in different states, right? So next we have regarding the 10th schedule of the constitution. So the 10th schedule's prohibition on horse trading, it has been rendered more or less a dead letter, because politicians have found various ways to get around this, right? So 10th schedule, it said that horse trading, it was more or less, it was made a dead letter. That means they have banned that, and they have seen that it would not happen anymore. But politicians, they have found various ways or loopholes to get over this particular prohibition. And there are two interrelated arguments against the idea, that is, one is federalism and the other one is democracy. So federalism, does it mean only administrative convenience? No, it is also to recognize the legitimacy of linguistic, ethnic, cultural and other forms of people and other forms of the statehood, right? So there is also a risk that there will be definitely some state level issues, right? And also there will be some national level issues. So if we are going for one nation, one election, state level issues could be subsumed, right? So it could be undermined and only national level issues could be highlighted, right? So when we have one nation, one election, this is one more negative point that we have, one more drawback that we have, that is national level issues, they'll definitely get highlighted a lot, and if there are some small state level issues, they could be subsumed under this. So that is also one possibility that we have. And coming to our second one, that is democracy. So people have very little space in the constitution, especially when it comes to exercising control over their representatives. So our preamble says people are given a lot of importance, but if we look at the reality, people, they have a very less control over their representatives whom they have elected, right? So in this way, there is a idea that is regarding federalism and also democracy. So we have to see the impact of this, that is, we have positive impacts, negative impacts. So if we have to conduct elections, there should be security forces mobilization should be done, right? Administrative cost, there will be a lot of cost administratively, and also it will be, states will be always under this election mode. If we do not have this one nation, one election, states will be always under election mode. Model code of conduct would be applicable, and then what will happen? Policy hindrance would happen, right? And if we look at other impacts, like regional political parties, they have very less workforce and very less resources compared to the national level parties. So these parties could be affected, right? And also, as we know, federalism will also get impacted, and centralization may happen, as we have discussed. And as we know, in our country, electoral literacy is very less, right? So if we conduct elections both at the state and national level, there is a possibility that because we have less electoral literacy, right? Electoral literacy is less in India. So what will happen, some people, what they'll do is, whatever they are considering at the national level, to the same party they could also vote at the state level. So this could also happen. So people may not be able to differentiate between the state level issues and national level issues, so that they are voting both for national and state level elections. They could not be able to differentiate between these, and they have to vote according to the, at the national level, they have to see whether the national level issues could be solved, and at the state level they should see the importance of the regional parties which can look at the state level issues. So this differentiation has to be done by the people, and because the electoral literacy is less in India, this differentiation could be a bit difficult. So this is what is about this article or editorial that we have on simultaneous elections. So this is very important editorial that we have to know from mains point of view and also from prelims point of view. So here we have some previous year questions. So firstly, let's have a look at the mains question here. Simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. This will limit the amount of time and money spent in electioneering, but it will reduce the government's accountability to the people. So this question was asked in UPSC Mains 2017. And regarding our prelims PYQs, all responsibilities regarding elections in India, these are entrusted to Chief Election Commissioner. So this was also one previous year question that we have. So we are going to look at the previous year questions so that you'll get to know how questions can be framed on a particular topic. So coming to our next editorial, that is the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita needs a relook. So let's have a look at this editorial. So here we have one important case, that is Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case of 2015. So this could be also important for prelims. So you have to go through some landmark judgments. So in those landmark judgments, we have this Shreya Singhal case. So Shreya Singhal case, so first of all you have to remember the year, that is 2015, and what is the issue. So the issue is regarding section 66A of IT Act of 2000. So you have to remember this section 66A of IT Act of 2000. So we'll have a look at what is the section 66A, etc. So first point is the name of the case, Shreya Singhal case of 2015, and the second one is the section involved here, that is section 66A of IT Act 2000, right? So these are the major and primary points that you have to remember. So let's have a look at this Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case 2015. So in this case, Supreme Court of India, it has held that section 66A of Information Technology Act, it is unconstitutional. Why? So let's have a look at the reason for this. So what do we have under section 66A? So it made it a punishable offence for any person who sends offensive information using a computer or any other electronic device. That means using a computer or any other electronic device like mobile, etc. If any person is sending any offensive information, then it would be a punishable offence. So this is what is given under section 66A of IT Act of 2000. So but this was struck down as unconstitutional. So it was struck down by the Supreme Court under this Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case of 2015 because it was declared as unconstitutional on grounds of violating Article 19(1) Clause A. Right. So it was declared unconstitutional on grounds of violating freedom of speech that was guaranteed under Article 19(1) Clause A. So do remember this, like what is the section that is involved in this case, the year of this case, what are the provisions of this section, and why was it struck down as unconstitutional. So this could be also important for prelims. So you have to remember the details of the case for prelims, right? So recently, central government introduced a few new offences in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita Bill, BNS Bill. So this is to deal sternly with terrorism related crimes and also organized crimes, right? So we have to study all these sections again and we have to bring it more firmly, right? So they have included some new offences in this. So let's have a look at what are these. So right, so here we have seen in Shreya Singhal case, if a person is sending offensive information, then that person could be punished, but this was struck down, right? Because there was the definition was vague, that was not clear. So it was vague. It means that the definition is not clear whether it like what is the meaning of the word offensive here. Offensive information, what comes under this offensive information, that should be clearly given in the definition, but this was not given. So it's a vague definition that was given, so it was struck down. So recently central government has introduced this new offences in this BNS bill, and there were some number of sections in the Sanhita, it was reduced. So the number was reduced. Why? It was because various sections pertaining to definitions, they have been merged into one section. So there are definitions in section 1, section 3, section 8, etc. So they are merged into one section, right? So in that way they have merged different sections, and also offences and punishments also they have been clubbed together, and offences of a similar nature. So if there are different kinds of offences, they are similar offences. All of these are they have been brought under the single offence, right? So in that way they have reduced the number of sections over here, and also a few sections were completely omitted from this bill. This is just a bill, so do remember this is not an act. So what were the sections that were omitted or removed from this bill? So let's have a look at that. So one is unnatural offences, section 377 of Indian Penal Code, and then we have adultery, section 497 of IPC, attempt to commit suicide, section 309 of IPC. So these were the various sections. So though this section 309, it was not completely removed, but it was mostly removed. So these were the sections which were omitted. So do remember this. And we have seen that the major aim is to deal with terrorism related crimes and organized crimes. So while the definition of terrorist act in the Sanhita, it has been largely borrowed from the UAPA, that is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967. So this is also one more act that you have to remember, UAPA Act of 1967. So from that act they have borrowed some features and they have included within the definition of terrorist act in the Sanhita. So the words to strike terror in the people, it was replaced with the words to intimidate the general public, right? So the expression like destroy the political, economic and social structure of the country. So if such terms are used, it is definitely a vague definition. So we have to know clearly what comes under that particular definition. So this clarity was not given. So it was again a vague definition that was given. Another offence reintroduced with some changes in the place of sedition is about acts endangering sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. So this appears more objective as it does not intend to punish criticism or disaffection towards the government, right? So if somebody is against the government, so if they have a voice against the government or they made a criticism against the government, simply a simple criticism may not be considered to be sedition, right? So we also have one more article on sedition today. So there we'll discuss in detail about what is sedition, etc. So for now remember these details, right? So that is about this article. So as a Sanhita, it will have a far-reaching impact on the criminal justice system. So as we know, if this bill becomes an act, it definitely has an impact on our criminal justice system of India, right? So it needs some more deliberations and some more discussions have to be made on this particular bill, and the Parliamentary Standing Committee, there was a committee on this, so it should ensure that whatever inconsistencies are present or whatever vague definitions were given under this, so all these should be reconsidered and they have to be removed, and appropriate explanations with clear cut or with those with clarity of definitions, so they have to be done, and it has to be eliminated after drafting all the error. After removing all the errors, they have to draft the bill. So this is about our Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita bill, which needs a relook. So here we have a mains PYQ related to this particular topic. Discuss section 66A of IT Act with reference to the alleged violation of Article 19 of the Constitution. So this was given in 2013 in UPSC Mains. So we have seen about Shreya Singhal case wherein we have discussed about section 66A of Information Technology Act of 2000. So here you can see there was a direct question that was asked on the provisions of this particular act. So you have to be very thorough of any section or any article which is especially in news in the recent times before the exam. So you have to be very much careful about and aware of the provisions of that particular act or sections which are in news. So this question is regarding how it has violated the Article 19 of the Constitution. So moving forward, we have Nipah breaks out again in Kerala, claims 2 lives. So first of all, how is Nipah caused? It is caused by a virus. So we'll discuss about this Nipah virus, etc. So here you can see 2 more cases of the virus transmitted from animals such as bats or pigs to humans and from human to human have been confirmed recently. Right. So here you can see regarding this Nipah virus. So 2 more cases of the virus were recently identified. So this is basically transmitted from animals like bats or pigs. From that it will be transmitted to humans, and from that infected humans it will be again transmitted from human to human. So these cases have been confirmed recently. So what would be the symptoms of Nipah virus? So what would be the symptoms of this Nipah? It is fever, muscle pain and respiratory problems. And if a person is infected, he can be asymptomatic also, but can be a carrier of Nipah. So for example, there is a bat. It has given a bite to a fruit, right? So it has bitten a particular fruit. So this infected bat, if it has given a bite to a fruit and this fruit got infected now, and if a human being, human one, he has eaten this particular fruit, so this guy got affected and this guy got infected. So he may have symptoms like fever, muscle pain and respiratory problems, or he can be asymptomatic. That means physically you cannot see any kind of symptoms on in him, but inner side he has this virus within him. So he'll go and meet human too. So he'll be transmitting this from him to other humans, right? So in that way human to human transmission will also happen in case of Nipah. And a bat habitat survey too is being planned in association with the departments of Forest and Wildlife and Animal Husbandry. And the NIV team, it also set up a biosafety level 3 mobile lab, and this is to enable testing of samples of suspected patients. So what is this biosafety level 3? That is BSL 3, right? So BSL 3 lab means it includes work on microbes. So for example, we have some microbes that are moreover indigenous, and also if they have the potential to get lethal diseases through inhalation, right? So if we inhale, if we are getting some lethal diseases, such kinds of microbes, on that they will be working on these kinds of microbes in this BSL 3, right? So access to these labs is also very much restricted and also controlled at all times. No, we all cannot, any person cannot easily enter this BSL lab. So it will be a lot of safety measures would be taken, because they will be dealing with this microbes which will lead to lethal diseases, right? So these kind of BSL 3 mobile labs were also set up so that they can enable testing of the samples of suspected patients. For example, if some patient has a doubt that he has this virus, if he has some similar symptoms, then he can go to this mobile lab, BSL 3 mobile lab, and they'll have a testing of the samples of that particular patient. And the ICMR team, it will conduct a epidemiological investigation into the genesis of the infection too, right? So this team, it will conduct a investigation like how did it start again, what is the genesis, that is how did it start or begin. So why did this infection begin, how did it start? So all these inspection or investigation would be done. And Nipah virus infection, it can be transmitted through contaminated food or directly from person to person. So according to the World Health Organization, WHO, this Nipa virus, it can be transmitted from human to human. So how could it be done? So it can be through contaminated food or directly from person to person. So this is one more thing that you have to remember. And according to our WHO, Nipah has a relatively high case fatality ratio. That means death in the cases of this Nipah virus would be high. So fatality ratio is high. So this is one more thing that you have to remember. And also about this BSL-3, right? So the NIV team is going to set up this BSL-3 labs. And coming to our next article, so here we have an expected question on this particular topic, that is, which of the statements are correct? In the year 2013, a question was asked. So the statements are regarding a virus. So basically on viruses, a question was asked. Viruses lack enzymes necessary for the generation of energy. Viruses can be cultured in any synthetic medium, and viruses are transmitted from one organism to another by biological vectors only. So these are the options that were given. So here the correct answer is 1 only. So viruses, they lack enzymes necessary for the generation of energy. So here you can see regarding the transmission of this Nipah virus. So how is it transmitted? So here you can see the Nipah virus, it infects a fruit bat over here, and this fruit contaminated by infected bat, and this is a infected person. This person ate this particular fruit, and also it can also infect a pig, and slowly it will infect the person, and this person he will spread it to his family members. So in this way human to human transmission would be also done. So this is how Nipah spreads. So people or animals have contact with bodily fluids like blood, poop, pee or saliva, or an infected animal. In this way we can be also affected. And people who eat foods that have been contaminated by this infected animal, for example, there is a bite by an infected pig or infected fruit bat, if that fruit is eaten by a human being, then it could be spread, right? And also people who are in close contact with a person who has Nipah virus, usually for caring for them, etc., at that time also, because of the contact with this bodily fluids, this could be spread from human being to human being also. So this is one more thing that you have to remember. So coming to our next article, it is Center to Start Ayushman Bhav Health Scheme today. So we'll have a look at this Ayushman Bhav Health Scheme. So the main aim of this is to provide healthcare services to every village and town in the country. And the campaign, this was initiated by the Health Ministry, and it is aimed at providing a comprehensive nationwide healthcare initiative. So this is to saturate the coverage of healthcare services and also reaching every village and every town of our country. So this is majorly to provide this comprehensive nationwide healthcare initiative. So do remember the major aim of this Ayushman Bhav scheme. So this is to ensure effective implementation of all the state-run health schemes. So we have various state-run health schemes. Right. So for the effective implementation of all these state-run health schemes and also to reach all the intended beneficiaries, even though they are in the remote areas or underserved areas, to reach all these people is the major aim of this Ayushman Bhav scheme. And also coming to this Ayushman Aapke Dwar 3.0 scheme. So the Health Ministry will also launch this Ayushman Aapke Dwar 3.0 program, and this will allow eligible beneficiaries enrolled under this PMJAY scheme to download their health card on their own. So PMJAY is our Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So those people who are enrolled, those beneficiaries who are eligible and who are enrolled under this PMJAY scheme, they can download their health card on their own, and this is to achieve full saturation of health schemes across the country. So this is the major aim of this Ayushman Bhav and also Ayushman Aapke Dwar 3.0 program. So coming to our next one, Supreme Court refers plea against sedition law to a constitution bench. So earlier we had a reference of this sedition in the previous article. Under simultaneous elections, we have come across this term sedition. Right. And also under our second article that we have discussed under this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita scheme. bill, sorry. So under this bill also we had a reference of the sedition. So here we are going to look at this sedition law because Supreme Court refers plea against this sedition law to a constitution bench. So the Supreme Court referred petitions challenging this section 124A. So first thing is you have to remember the section, that is section 124A. So the provision for sedition in the Indian Penal Code. So this was referred to a constitutional bench while refusing to wait for Parliament's word on the Bharatiya Sanhita bill. So this is a draft law proposed to replace British made Penal Code of 1860, right? So we have discussed about this BNS bill. We have seen that there is a need for a relook of this particular bill because there are some vague definitions etc. under this. So the draft has to be, again they have to draft it after making the necessary changes in this. So that is what we have discussed, what are the what are the necessities or the necessary changes that have to be made. So we have already discussed about that. So this BNS bill, it is proposed to replace the British made Penal Code of 1860, right? So prosecutions under section 124A presently on hold following a Supreme Court order in May 2022. So this would persist even if the BNS bill manages to pass the muster in Parliament. So we have seen that BNS, it's still a bill. It is not at a legislation, right? But in May 2022, Supreme Court, it has given a particular order, right? So prosecutions under 124A presently on hold after this Supreme Court order. Whatever prosecutions are to be done under section 124A, so they are presently on hold, and this would persist even if BNS bill becomes an act also, this would persist, right? And a substantive hearing of the case immediately, it would be untimely because this BNS bill, it is before a parliamentary standing committee and it would be tabled in the winter session along with, we also have Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita bill and also Bharatiya Sakshya bills. So they have to replace this Code of Criminal Procedure and Indian Evidence Act. So these three new bills, you have to also remember this. It's like what is it going to replace? So the BNS bill, that is the Bharatiya Sanhita bill, so it is going to replace the Indian Penal Code of 1860 and then our Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita bill. So this is going to replace the Code of Criminal Procedure, that is CRPC, and then we have Bharatiya Sakshya bill. So this is going to replace this Indian Evidence bill or Indian Evidence Act, right? So these are the three bills that you have to know, and also what are they going to replace. This is one more important point that you have to remember from prelims point of view, right? So according to this, section 150 in the Bharatiya Sanhita bill, it avoids using the term sedition but describes the offence as any act endangering sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. So this is one more point that we have to remember. And assuming the new law comes into force, that law will govern only future cases, right? So here we have seen it was on hold, right? So if this BNS bill becomes an act also, it will govern only future cases. Only after the bill becomes an act, whatever cases comes, it will deal with those future cases only. So if you look at the pending prosecutions under 124A, they will continue. So they will continue unless the new law says that it has retrospective effect. So after passing this bill, if it becomes an act and if they say that it will have a retrospective effect, only then the pending cases will be according to the new act. Otherwise, they will be continuing as per the old one only. So it will govern only the future cases, right? So this is one more thing that we have to remember. So if it does not say, if it says that it has retrospective effect, or if Parliament says that all the pending cases will lapse, only then this will be those old cases would lapse. Otherwise, they will be, this bill will be governing only the future cases, right? And any re-examination of section 124A, it would have to consider a Constitution Bench judgment of 1962 under Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar case, which has upheld the legality of section 124A through limiting its applicability to activities involving incitement to violence or intention to create disturbance of public peace. So this is one important landmark judgment that you have to remember. So earlier we have seen about Shreya Singhal case, and here you can see about Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar case 1962. So you have to remember these cases. So we have some landmark judgments which are important for us from examination point of view, and this particular article is important both from prelims and mains point of view. So if you look at sedition law, it comes under our section 124A of Indian Penal Code of 1860, and this is what is the definition of this sedition. So whoever by words, that means spoken words, written words, or even if by signs or visual representation or otherwise, if they bring or attempt to bring into hatred or contempt or excite or attempts to excite disaffection towards the government established by law in India, they shall be punished. Right. So this was actually brought during the British rule, that is in 1860, because the government did not want any kind of dissent from the people. But we have continued this section 124A sedition, and the punishment was imprisonment to life, to which fine can be also added, or imprisonment. This would also extend to 3 years. To that also fine can be added, or sometimes only fine would be imposed. So this was the punishment. And did the Supreme Court say anything about sedition law earlier? So yes, there were some judgments over here. We have some landmark judgments. So first one is, as we have seen earlier, the Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar case of 1962. So here the Supreme Court held that a citizen has a right to say or write whatever he likes about the government or its measures, or by way of criticism or comment, so long as he does not incite people to violence. So for example, there is a government initiative and a person A, he did not like that particular initiative. So he can say that he, as a citizen of India, he has a right to say that I did not like this particular initiative of the government, or he can write that. Right. So in a written form also he can write that, okay, I have a dislike to this initiative of the government, or so and so measure taken by the government, I did not like it. So in that way he can criticize it, he can comment on that, but he should not incite any kind of violence from the people. So he should not incite people that let's have a violent reaction. So in that way he should not incite the people to violence. Until then he has the right to criticize. So this is what was told under this case. And in 1982 we have a case P. Alavi versus State of Kerala. So here the court held that sloganeering, criticizing of parliament or the judicial setup, this does not amount to sedition. And in 1995 we have one more landmark judgment under Balwant Singh versus State of Punjab. So here Supreme Court said that raising some slogan like Khalistan Zindabad a couple of times, which neither evoked any response nor any reaction from the public, it cannot attract such punishment. Right. So if people raise some slogans, so a couple of times, that is once or twice, if a slogan is made but no one has reacted to that, people did not react to this particular slogan, then it cannot be, these persons cannot be punished saying that they have given that particular slogan. Right. So if there is a reaction from the people, if it incites violence, then that is another case. But here, if the slogan was given once or twice and there is no reaction from the public or no response from the public, then it does not have, that person may not have any kind of, it cannot attract any kind of punishment. Right. So these are the important articles of today. So hope you have liked this video. So please do follow us on various social media platforms, and if you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe to ForumIAS. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye.